RuneScape, your greatest adventure. Also your lowest resolution and buggiest adventure. Now don't get me wrong, I love RuneScape, but it's probably the most broken game I've ever played. None of the things I'm about to say are necessarily the game's biggest problems, it's just the ones I like to complain about the most. So here we go. Movement. RuneScape is a click-to-move game. Nothing wrong with that. It works fine in games like Diablo or League or any other isometric game. But in RuneScape, when you click to move, there's like a half-second delay between the time you click and the time it takes your character to start moving. I've always thought of this as server lag, but the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that it's there intentionally. After all, this has been in the game since Classic. Now, in those older days, it wasn't really a problem, because, well, look at this guy. You think he's going to be juking any bosses anytime soon? But now you have intense fights with shit all over the place that you need to dodge, and it's just unacceptable. What makes it worse is sometimes you'll click and your character won't move. So you try to click somewhere else, and what ends up happening is the game queues up your clicks. Your character will move to the first point you clicked and then to the second point, which causes him to run back and forth through hazards multiple times. I've died so many times because my character started to spaz out when I clicked around too much. Economy. Oh god, the economy in RuneScape is so screwed. And Jagex doesn't seem to want to do anything about it. Either they don't understand their own game, or they intentionally are screwing it over for some reason. Or in coal, for instance. These drop off monsters and bosses by the hundreds. Why? Why is General Grardor carrying around 10,000 noted pieces of coal? Not only does it not make sense, but it makes skills like mining totally worthless. And monsters drop gems and armor pieces in all kinds of bars and ores too, which makes smithing pretty pointless. Now I know Jagex has been talking about reworking smithing and mining to try to fix this a little bit, which I'm really excited about, but that should have been done years ago. Smithing and mining aren't the only skills to have an issue. Rune crafting is pretty much a dead skill now. You need runes to cast spells, and you need rune crafters to make those runes. Except now you don't, because runes drop by the hundreds off of monsters. Most runes are basically worthless. I swear I go into the barrows and get like 2,000 death runes, and then I check on the Grand Exchange and they're going for like less than 200 gold. Oh good, that's worth my time. The thing I feel is the main reason for this massive gold inflation is one single ability, high level alchemy. With this skill you can turn any items into gold coins. It basically means that every day billions of new gold enters the economy, and other than armor repairs, there isn't really a way to get rid of it. Jagex doesn't want to change this skill because they know people would throw a fit and literally riot about it, as RuneScape players are prone to do for some reason. I would suggest changing it to work similarly to the Spring Cleaner, basically breaking items down. Or just remove it altogether and have the invention skill of breaking items into invention components take its place. Tiers of items not making sense. Okay, so RuneScape has this problem where it's hard to gauge how good a piece of equipment is. Now usually you can go by the level to equip it, but RuneScape has a sort of odd mechanic where some armor has durability and some doesn't. Basically armor that doesn't degrade you can use forever without repairing it, while armor that does degrade requires a lot of money to keep it working. But the values and how quickly armor degrades doesn't follow any sort of pattern. This is a problem because it would be expensive to just carry around your best pieces of gear for low-level combat. So not only do I have to worry about how good a piece of equipment is, but I have to do all this research on how different pieces of armor degrade, and how expensive it is to repair them. It's a total mess. And another thing that doesn't help is that sometimes low-level pieces of gear degrade, while higher-level gear doesn't. The Barrows, for example, is some pretty low-level stuff, but it degrades, which makes it just kind of useless. No one wants to have to pay to use equipment when they could use better equipment for free. And on top of that, there are weird pieces of equipment like the Ceradoman Godsword, which has such a good special attack that it's pretty much the best sword to train combat with since like 2009. And then there's other convoluted things like the Dragon Rider Spear, which is a level 85 piece of equipment but has higher accuracy than other level 85 pieces of equipment but lower damage. Everything is a confusing mess, always. Combat styles. There are 3 basic combat styles in RuneScape: magic, melee, and ranged. This is pretty normal for an MMO, but the problem is how they're balanced. Or imbalanced to be more exact. For bosses and monsters, ranged or magic is just superior to using melee. This is because, for some reason, many monsters won't try to attack you with melee unless you're already in melee range, meaning their damage will just be ranged or magic, which means you can more easily gear and pray for the encounters. This makes melee inferior in almost every encounter, which sucks because I like melee. Not only that, but to be efficient with melee you need to level up 2 skills. both attack and strength, while ranged and magic are their own single skills. But magic has its own problems. In order to cast spells, you need to use runes, but runes take up inventory slots. Ranged needs arrows, but they're equipped to the character in the quiver slot. Why not give mages a spell component slot or something? All these things combined makes ranged usually the best option for most encounters. I just feel like things need a little bit of tweaking. Quests. Oh god, the early quests. They need to be reworked. Do you remember that one quest in World of Warcraft where it was like, search the world who knows something about dragonstones, or some shit like that, and the person you needed to find was on top of a mountain in the middle of fucking nowhere? That's every quest in RuneScape. Besides the few early quests that kind of teach you about skills, a good chunk of those post-classic but pre-RuneScape 3 quests are fucking ridiculous. They'll just say, find some NPC who knows something about growing cabbages. So you better remember that one NPC that had one line of dialogue about growing cabbages in a quest you did literally a decade ago. Recent quests have gotten a lot better and are actually really good. Older ones need to be looked at again. The other thing that needs to be looked at are the quest requirements. In order to start quests in this game, you often need to complete a dozen other quests, which all need other quests to be done too. Look at this. This is ridiculous. The most you should have to do is like 3. There's been so many times where someone is like, who wants to come to this area and do this with me? And then I realized I can't, because in order to get to that area, you have to do like 25 hours of quests. Now quests these days are much, much better. Many of the newer ones are almost like episodes of a RuneScape TV show. They're really awesome. But someone really should take a look at these older ones. Garbage drops. So just about every monster in the game has a habit of carrying around a bunch of garbage in its pockets. I'm talking about things like low-level seeds and herbs, worthless runes, worthless ore, feathers, unidentifiable globs of trash. It's annoying because occasionally something decent will drop, but it's buried in a pile of garbage, which means you have to look through all this stuff all the time just to see if something cool dropped. Monsters really should have drop tables that reflect what they are. For instance, only things with feathers should drop feathers. Only things that have to do with mining, like dwarves, should drop ore. Only something like plant monsters should drop seeds or herbs. This would be great because then I could just pick the monster I wanted to kill based on its drops, instead of every monster sharing this kind of weird, all-encompassing garbage drop table. Fucking weird skills. What am I doing? What is this? Seriously, I have no idea what's even going on. All I know is I have to click this thing, and I have to click this thing, I have to click on these little things, and I get experience. And so then I do this for like 12 hours because I need 7,500 to do a quest, for some reason. Oh, divination. This is a good skill. It's really fun and interesting. Here's what you do. And that's pretty much it. When I play this game and I have to do this kind of fucking whatever this is for hours and hours, just to raise up the skill for some arbitrary requirement or for some quest or something, I just think to myself, if I ever made an MMO, I'd never want to make players have to do this. And the number one broken thing about RuneScape is everything. Everything is broken. Everything is buggy or laggy or weird or doesn't really make sense in some way. It's hard to even explain what it is I'm talking about, but if you've played RuneScape for any length of time, you'd know what I mean. I think the problem is that the game was made on an engine from like 2001, and everything that's new has just kind of been added on top of it. From the weird loading screens to the square tile layout with kind of weird movement options, everything is just a little bit off. Now I love RuneScape. It's always been my go-to game when there's somewhat of a gaming drought, and probably always will be. But unfortunately, I don't think there's a way to fix it. I think what Jagex needs to do is make a new MMO from the ground up. It can even be a new RuneScape, but they should take the opportunity to fix every problem with the current RuneScape, using in the past 15 years. So what do you think? Do you think RuneScape can be fixed? Or do you think it would be better to basically remake it from the ground up? Or maybe you're fine with it as it is. And if you've never played RuneScape, why not give it a try and look at some of the stuff I'm talking about. It's free to play with an optional membership. And if there is some option or something to fix some of these things I'm talking about, like a no movement delay option, someone please tell me about it. Anyway, I'm Kothorix, and you have a wonderful day.